And what are some things that maybe we should be noting, that we can be prepared for, so that we aren't trying to scramble in those last few years of let's get all this stuff together. What should we be recording and writing down way ahead of time? Because you talked about that history.
Yeah. So you talked about life skills. So life skills are typically how are they caring for themselves, or we sometimes classify them as independent living skills.
Mm-hmm.
So are they able to take directions? Can they use the bus, or are they able to drive, use a map? Are they able to exchange money, pay for things, balance a budget, that sort of thing? Those are like life skills. Doing laundry, cooking, taking care of themselves. Those are typically in the realm of those life skills, which is entirely important. The other category that we would say is really big is what we would call our vocational skills. So a student's vocation is school. So what are the skills that the student needs to be able to have mastered to be successful in their vocation in school? So those really start in preschool and kindergarten. When we talk about preschool and kindergarten, you're not really learning much academics in the traditional sense of the reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? You're learning about the learning to learn, the being ready to learn. So the following directions, the being able to initiate a task, complete a task independently, everything revolving independent skills, following along. And then there's also what we would later on in later years talk about as like study skills as part of that as well. So managing our time well, knowing that I have 20 minutes, am I going to finish this? Or do I need to ask for help because I don't know where I am? These are all things that a lot of times are being addressed in the IEP. But many times we put in a lot of accommodations to support. So we might put in an aid to support to help make sure the student is on task, stays on task, and completes their work, that they follow directions, that when the teacher is speaking, they're looking at the teacher and whatnot. But we quickly forget that that aid is not always going to be there. And there's that fine line between, okay, the student needs to learn the academics, and the best way to them to learn the academics is with the aid or with the one-on-one assistance, right? So to a certain extent, we need that. We need that because we need to master those skills. But we have to figure out a plan for when that support is going to be weaned off for a certain extent. Because when they leave...
Just to jump in, Amanda, sorry to interrupt, but I think also parents tend to forget about all of the technology that exists that we rely on. So if I didn't have my calendar, my Google Calendar, and like several reminders that we were recording today, I might have been, no, I'm just kidding. But I think where I was going is the weaning off, but not, your child may not necessarily be ready to not have anything, but I think starting to notice, you have your iPhone watches that tell you to stand up every hour if you haven't moved, right? Breathe when your heart rate's going up a little bit. There are watches, I can't even think of that. I just requested one last week. There are even pens that read things aloud. So start thinking about, okay, what does that aid actually do? And is there a technology, technology that the child can kind of start working with? Because the first thing that you pick may not necessarily work, right?
That's a very good point.
That assistive technology gets a bad rap sometimes because it's the voice to recognition that a lot of people already have on their iPhones, and districts aren't necessarily talking about all this wonderful stuff that they could completely take with them into college and look like everyone else.
Exactly.
And not always just technology, but strategies. So the strategies to, when the student comes into class, maybe they have a list of these are the things that I need to remember. I need to remember that when the teacher is talking, maybe I'm taking notes, but then maybe I need to remember to ask the question, raise my hand, or the fact that I need to raise my hand to ask a question. We do cue cards a lot of times on students' desks that can easily translate to an app on your phone, right? So we're looking at what are the skills that are of the foundation of a successful student. And those are the skills that we either need to teach the child or we need to accommodate in some way so that they're not needing another adult to. So if it's an accommodation that we're using an aide or adult assistance, a one-on-one, maybe it's the parent if they're doing homeschool, they're providing that assistance now. Eventually, when they start to get older, we're helping them develop these skills so they can be somewhat independent. With sensory processing, many of our kiddos have difficulties with sensory processing. When we talk about teaching them strategies, we kind of start in the process with just teaching them the strategy itself. So here's a squish ball, squish it in your hand. Right. Or here, go walk around the classroom. That's the first step. The second step is having them identify when they might need it. But that is going to take an adult saying, it sounds like you need a break. Here's your ball, right? But then the third step is they're identifying, I'm stressed. I'm a little overwhelmed. I need this. Can I have this? Yeah. So the same goes for a lot of these independent skills, is it's going to be a progression of teaching them, of, kind of doing it for them, then teaching them when they might need it, and then teaching them how to be independent with it. And whether that is using technology or using a notepad or something, so these are all really important skills that, if you look at what makes a successful college student or even an independent worker. And I think a lot of adults still haven't mastered a lot of these things. And that's why you get adults that have trouble in college classes because they haven't learned these skills either. So, I mean, any student can benefit from learning these skills starting in